Melancholy, it's interesting. I think it's possible that I'm a depressive a bit. I think poetry was something I invented in order to get over depression from a very early age. It always cheered me up to do it. And I think that's the only reason I've devoted my life to this completely unprofitable activity. It's just a ridiculous thing to have hit on. But I must say, when I was 14 or 15, when I started, I honestly thought it was more important than it is. I've been absolutely amazed at the status poetry has, the low status it has in people's general consciousness. I thought it was quite important, because actually all kinds of people I knew were sort of interested in it. I had a girlfriend, and her stepfather was Alan Ross, who was a literary editor. So I thought everybody was in the game. And, she showed my poems to her stepfather, and he showed them to somebody else, and he got them published for me. I was incredibly lucky, but it did lead me to suppose or believe that it was a kind of central part of English existence, English behaviour. Plus, let's face it, there's a lot of good poetry in England, in the history of literature in this country. So the fact that it isn't anymore was unknown to me. So it was a slow understanding. But by that time, I was completely addicted to it. And it is extremely addictive, because what you do in poetry is not express yourself. What you do is discover stuff. You find out things. You invent, and you find out things you didn't know already. That is the main addiction. I think if it was self-expression, you would stop doing it like people do when they're 18 or 19. They give it up and get married or something. But I never did that. I never grew up. So it didn't really matter. I mean, I just carried on with this addiction of self-discovery. Having something to say was not ever what I wanted to do. It never happens like that. You always have maybe a first line or a last line or something like that, and they just have to be fixed into some sort of structure. And during this making of this structure, you invent something. You invent some kind of wheel, that works, that rolls along. I was having a extramarital philandering for a very long period of years. Well, we all were. I mean, this is a different era. We're talking about the 70s, and it was extremely free going in those days. And I was never leaving my wife or anything like that, but it was something that mattered to me, and I was incredibly fond of her, this girl I met, and I went on seeing her. And you get so fond of her that something like love comes up out of you. And I find I was jotting things down, bits of phrases and perverse thoughts of one kind or another. Unexpected things appeared, negative stuff, lots of negative stuff, and lots of over the top kind of feelings. And it's sort of, for the first time in my life, I got a book of poems that was all about the same thing, really. So it did fall together. And one of the reasons it's rather difficult to choose poems is that the story is not apparent unless you read the whole thing. And then it sort of starts from A to Z, I got a sort of slightly phony beginning of pretending how I met, and very much a lot of stuff of how it ended. And that's what it's all about, really. And what I like to do in poetry is to have a kind of speaking voice, to make it colloquial and natural without being prosy. That's the great trick. Without being prosaic. So memorability is one thing that I care about a lot, although perhaps you wouldn't think it, to hear the incredibly conversational tone I use. But I find it very difficult to write, and to get a conversational tone to be poetic at the same time is, for me, the main problem, and a very difficult one at that. It's been something which has stayed with me more than it actually hit me at the time. It was a sort of high point in my life, and I got various other bits and pieces before that. So it seemed fairly It wasn't until I saw the shortlist that I was amazed, but it was such great people. I thought I was incredibly lucky. I think I knew all the judges, so it did help a bit. But yes, looking back on it, it seems such a great thing to happen with this magnificent name, T.S. Eliot and everything to attach to your name. I thought it was a wonderful thing, sort of way beyond me in a way. And I absolutely love it. I felt I'd been knighted or something.